the quiet heart of Hayward, California, where the mundane rhythm of suburbia typically hummed with the uneventful ease of everyday life, the morning of November 19, 1988, dawned like any other. The autumnal sun cast a golden hue over the small, peaceful town, promising a day like countless others. In a modest, single-story house nestled on a leafy street, 9-year-old Michaela Garecht greeted the day with the boundless energy and innocent excitement characteristic of her age. With chestnut hair cascading in waves down her shoulders, and her eyes sparkling with youthful exuberance, she embodied the very essence of a carefree childhood. Her home was alive with the usual Saturday morning bustle. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, mingling with the distant sound of cartoons playing on the living room television. Michaela's mother, a pillar of strength and love, moved about the kitchen, her presence a comforting constant in the Garecht household. In her room, surrounded by the trappings of a typical child in the 80s, posters of pop stars, shelves lined with well-loved books and toys, and a collection of colorful trinkets, Michaela dressed for the day. She chose her favorite t-shirt, emblazoned with the word Metro across the front, and paired it with rolled-up denim jeans. She slipped on her black Mary Jane shoes, adding the final touch of pearl-colored feather-shaped earrings, a recent gift she treasured. Outside, the neighborhood was waking up. Lawns dew-kissed, trees whispering secrets to each other as leaves rustled gently in the cool breeze, houses standing like silent sentinels watching over the streets. Michaela's excitement was palpable as she planned her day. She and her best friend, Katrina Rodriguez, had made plans to venture out on an adventure, small yet thrilling in the eyes of two young girls. They were to ride their scooters to the nearby Rainbow Market, just 2 blocks away, a journey they had made countless times, a testament to the innocence and freedom of their young lives. After a quick breakfast, Michaela grabbed her scooter, its handlebars worn from use, its wheels eager for the day's journey. She waved goodbye to her mother, her voice a cheerful melody that echoed through the house. "See you later, Mom," she called out, her words hanging in the air like a promise. The two girls met, their laughter and chatter filling the street as they kicked off, the wheels of their scooters spinning along the pavement. The crisp morning air nipped at their cheeks, the world around them awash with the vibrant colors of fall. Little did they know, as they disappeared around the corner, that this ordinary morning in Hayward was about to be etched into history, marked by an event that would shatter the tranquility of the town and change their lives forever. The Rainbow Market, a quaint and unassuming store, stood at the corner of the street, its familiar red and white sign a beacon for the neighborhood's daily needs. For Michaela and Katrina, it represented a tiny fragment of independence, a place just far enough from home to feel like an adventure. As they approached, the market was bustling with the usual Saturday crowd, people strolling in and out, arms laden with groceries, faces familiar and friendly. The girls parked their scooters by the front door, a ritual they had performed countless times, and dashed inside. The store's bell chimed merrily as they entered, announcing their arrival. Inside, the shelves were lined with an array of goods, the air filled with the mingled scents of fresh produce and baked bread. Michaela and Katrina giggled and chattered as they picked out their treasures, candy and sodas, the spoils of their short journey. Their errand completed, the girls exited the store, their minds preoccupied with the delights they had just acquired. It was then that a chilling realization struck. One of the scooters was missing. Puzzled, they scanned the area and noticed it lying farther down in the parking lot, oddly placed near a parked car. Michaela, with an innocence untouched by fear, walked towards the scooter. Her small hands reached out to grasp the handlebars, her attention solely on retrieving their forgotten toy. It was at that moment that the ordinary scene morphed into a nightmare. From the parked car, a man emerged, an unremarkable figure at first glance, but one that would soon become the central character in a harrowing tale. His movements were quick and purposeful. In a flash, he was upon Michaela, his right arm encircling her waist, lifting her with a terrifying ease. "Katrina, just a few feet away, froze as the scene unfolded before her eyes. Michaela's scream pierced the air, a sound so raw and fear-laden that it rooted Katrina to the spot. I looked up when I heard a scream, and I saw a man putting her into his car. She was still screaming. I just stood and watched, frozen in shock. She would later recount, the horror etched in her memory. The abductor was mercilessly efficient. In mere seconds, he had shoved Michaela into his car, a large, battered sedan that seemed to lurk menacingly. With the screech of tires, he sped away, leaving behind a cloud of exhaust and a stunned silence. Katrina, her shock turning into frantic action, raced back into the store. "Help! Someone took Michaela," she cried out, her voice trembling with panic. The store clerk, her face turning pale, fumbled with the phone to dial 911, her hands shaking. As the reality of what had just happened began to sink in, a wave of dread swept through the Rainbow Market. Patrons stopped in their tracks, their faces a mix of confusion and fear. The news spread like wildfire. A child had been abducted, right there, in broad daylight, in their own neighborhood. In those few, frantic moments, the world seemed to stand still in Hayward. A community, once secure in its serene normality, found itself thrust into the midst of an unthinkable horror. The name Michaela Joy Garecht was about to become a symbol of every parent's worst nightmare, her disappearance a haunting echo in the streets of the quiet town. The tranquility of Hayward was shattered in an instant, replaced by a palpable sense of urgency and fear. The news of Michaela Garecht's abduction rippled through the town with the force of a tidal wave, leaving a trail of shock and disbelief. In homes, streets, and shops, conversations ceased, replaced by a heavy silence, the weight of the unthinkable hanging in the air. The police arrived within minutes, their sirens cutting through the stillness of the Saturday morning. The Rainbow Market, once a hub of mundane activity, transformed into a chaotic scene of flashing lights and hurried movements. Officers cordoned off the area, their faces set in grim determination as they began the desperate search for clues. Katrina, still trembling with shock, was ushered into the back of a police car. Her eyes, wide with fear, scanned the crowd of onlookers that had begun to gather. She recounted the events in a quavering voice, each detail a piece of the puzzle in the hands of the investigators. The description of the abductor, a white male in his 20s, with severe acne or pockmarks on his face, shoulder-length dirty blonde hair, and blue eyes, was immediately relayed to the officers on the scene. Meanwhile, Michaela's family was plunged into a nightmare. The phone call that every parent dreads came without warning, the words from the other end sending a chill down their spine. Her mother, her heart racing with terror, struggled to comprehend the reality that her daughter, who had left home just an hour ago, laughing and carefree, was now the victim of an unthinkable crime. The community rallied around the Garecht family, their collective grief and anxiety fueling a desperate need to act. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers came together, united in a singular purpose: to find Michaela. Volunteers flooded the police station, ready to assist in any way possible. Flyers with Michaela's smiling face were printed by the thousands, her bright eyes and cheerful smile a stark contrast to the dark reality of the situation. Local media descended upon the town, their cameras and microphones capturing the growing sense of panic. The story of Michaela's abduction spread like wildfire, reaching beyond the boundaries of Hayward to the entire nation. The small town, once hidden in the anonymity of suburban California, was now thrust into the national spotlight, its streets and people scrutinized by a country grappling with the horror of what had occurred. As night fell, the search intensified. Helicopters whirred overhead, their spotlights piercing the darkness, scouring the landscape for any sign of the missing child. Police officers and volunteers combed the streets, calling out Michaela's name into the night, their voices tinged with both hope and despair. In the Garecht home, the night was long and unbearable. Michaela's room, with its posters and toys, stood as a silent testament to the innocence that had been so cruelly snatched away. Her family huddled together, tears and prayers mingling in the suffocating air of uncertainty. They clung to each other, holding on to the fragile hope that their beloved Michaela would be returned to them, even as the shadows of doubt and fear crept into their hearts. The town of Hayward, once a haven of peace and security, lay awake that night, its residents united in a vigil of hope and worry. The question on everyone's mind was the same: where was Michaela Joy Garecht? In the wake of Michaela's abduction, the town of Hayward awoke to a new reality, one where the safety and innocence of their community were irrevocably shattered. Yet, in this hour of despair, an unparalleled sense of unity and determination emerged. The townspeople, fueled by a mix of fear, anger, and a profound sense of compassion, rallied together in an extraordinary display of community spirit. The local Rainbow Market became an impromptu center of operations. Tables were set up, piled high with stacks of flyers and posters bearing Michaela's image. Volunteers, some whom knew the Garecht family, and many who didn't, gathered in droves, ready to distribute the flyers in every corner of the town and beyond. They canvassed neighborhoods, tacking posters on lampposts, in store windows, and on community bulletin boards. Michaela's bright, youthful face stared back from every street corner, her disappearance a haunting presence in the daily lives of Hayward's residents. Schools played their part too. Teachers and students, many of whom were Michaela's classmates, organized campaigns to spread awareness. Children, understanding the gravity of the situation, took to the streets after school, earnestly handing out flyers to passersby, their voices small but determined. Local businesses joined in the effort. Michaela's face appeared on electronic billboards and was printed in newspapers and local publications. Grocery stores placed flyers in shopping bags, and restaurants left stacks of them at their entrances. The local radio stations broadcast updates and appeals for information, her name echoing across the airwaves. The reach of Michaela's story extended far beyond Hayward. National media outlets picked up the story, catapulting it into the national consciousness. Her abduction was featured on television news programs and talk shows, each segment a plea for her safe return. In this collective endeavor, the boundaries of the community expanded. People from neighboring towns and cities came to offer their help. Some organized search parties, scouring local parks, hillsides, and unpopulated areas, refusing to leave any stone unturned. Others hosted fundraisers to increase the reward money for information leading to Michaela's whereabouts. Social gatherings in Hayward took on a new dimension. Community centers, churches, and schools hosted vigils and prayer meetings. People of all ages and backgrounds came together, lighting candles and holding hands in a poignant display of solidarity. They prayed not only for Michaela's safe return, but for strength and comfort for her family. The Garecht family found themselves at the heart of this extraordinary outpouring of support. Strangers became friends, offering comfort in whatever form they could: a warm meal, a supportive hug, a sympathetic ear. This web of community support became a source of strength for them, a beacon of hope in their darkest hours. In every effort, big or small, the message was clear: Michaela was one of their own, and they would not rest until she was found. The town of Hayward had come together in a remarkable way, showing the world the power of community in the face of tragedy. But despite their tireless efforts and unyielding hope, as days turned into weeks, Michaela remained missing, and the mystery of her disappearance continued to haunt the hearts of everyone who had come to care for the little girl with the bright smile. As the days stretched into weeks, the Hayward Police Department, bolstered by the FBI's resources, delved deeper into one of the most intensive investigations in their history. The task was monumental, yet the resolve of the law enforcement officers was unshakable. They were driven not just by duty, but by a shared sense of urgency to bring Michaela home. The police station became a hive of activity, with detectives poring over every detail and lead. The description of the abductor and his vehicle, provided by Katrina, was scrutinized and cross-referenced with known offenders and vehicles. Sketch artists worked with Katrina to create a composite image of the abductor, a face that would soon become familiar across the nation. The investigation team cast a wide net. They interviewed residents, local business owners, and anyone who might have seen something on that fateful morning. Door-to-door searches were conducted, with officers methodically combing through neighborhoods, seeking any scrap of information that might lead to a breakthrough. The forensic team meticulously examined the scene of the abduction. Michaela's scooter, found discarded in the parking lot, became a critical piece of evidence. Every fingerprint, every smudge was analyzed in the hope of finding a connection to the abductor. Tips and leads flooded in by the thousands. Every phone call, every piece of information was followed up, no matter how insignificant it seemed. The police set up a dedicated hotline for the case, and the public responded with an outpouring of potential sightings and theories. Some leads took detectives across the state, and even to other parts of the country, each followed with a mix of hope and trepidation. The investigation faced its share of challenges. False leads and dead ends were frequent, each a blow to the morale of the team. But they pressed on, fueled by the determination not to let Michaela's case go cold. As the search continued, the community's efforts to aid in the investigation grew. Local volunteers formed search parties, combing through the nearby woods, parks, and unpopulated areas. They trudged through underbrush and called out Michaela's name, their voices echoing in the silence. The media continued to play a crucial role, keeping Michaela's story in the public eye. Her face appeared on television screens and newspapers daily, a constant reminder of the ongoing tragedy. National figures, touched by the story, lent their voices to the cause, amplifying the call for any information that could lead to Michaela. Yet, despite the exhaustive efforts and the unwavering commitment of the police, the weeks turned into months with no significant breakthrough. The initial surge of leads and tips began to dwindle, and the trail seemed to grow colder. In the heart of Hayward, at the Garecht household, hope mingled with despair. The family's life had been irrevocably altered, each day a struggle to hold on to hope amidst the growing uncertainty. Yet they remained steadfast in their belief that Michaela would be found, their faith unbroken even in the face of overwhelming odds. The investigation into Michaela Garecht's disappearance continued tirelessly, a testament to the dedication of law enforcement and the enduring hope of a community. But as the first year drew to a close, the mystery of what happened to the bright-eyed, 9-year-old girl from Hayward remained unsolved, her absence a lingering shadow over the town that had come to love her as their own. As the initial frenzy of the investigation into Michaela Garecht's disappearance settled into a grim routine, the days turned into months, and the months stretched into years. The vibrant energy that had once fueled community searches and vigils began to wane, replaced by a quiet, persistent undercurrent of hope and mourning. In the Garecht household, time seemed to move both swiftly and painfully slow. Birthdays passed without celebration, holidays were observed with a somber tone, and Michaela's room remained untouched. A shrine to a childhood paused in time. Her family grappled with the torment of not knowing, each day an oscillation between hope and despair. Michaela's mother became a symbol of resilience, channeling her anguish into advocacy for missing children, refusing to let her daughter's story fade into obscurity. The Hayward Police Department, steadfast in their commitment, continued to work the case. The file on Michaela's abduction grew thick with reports, interviews, and leads that had been painstakingly followed and exhausted. Detectives assigned to the case changed over the years, but the resolve to find answers never wavered. The case was regularly reviewed, with fresh eyes examining old evidence, hoping to uncover something that had been missed. But as years turned into decades, the case of Michaela Garecht became one of the most haunting cold cases in the region. New detectives took over, poring over the files, re-interviewing witnesses, and exploring new forensic technologies. Periodically, a new lead or tip would reignite a spark of hope. Investigators would follow it diligently, often leading to dead ends, but each time with a silent prayer that this would be the break they needed. In the broader community, Michaela's disappearance had left an indelible mark. Parents held their children a little tighter, and the innocence of a carefree childhood felt like a relic of the past. Annual vigils were held, with candles lit and prayers whispered, not just for Michaela, but for all children who had vanished without a trace. Her story became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the fragility and unpredictability of life. The media, too, revisited the case periodically, especially on anniversaries of her disappearance. Documentaries and news specials retold the story, keeping Michaela's memory alive in the public consciousness. Her face, frozen in time, continued to gaze out from screens and printed pages, a silent plea for closure. As technology advanced, the case saw new developments. Forensic techniques, once considered science fiction at the time of her disappearance, were now applied to the evidence collected. Every fingerprint and fiber was re-examined, each with the potential to be the missing key in solving the mystery. Yet, despite these efforts, Michaela's fate remained a mystery. The community, although changed by the tragedy, continued to hope for answers. Michaela's friends, who had once shared scooters and secrets with her, grew up in the shadow of her absence, their childhood memories tinged with the bittersweet nostalgia of what was and what could have been. The passage of time did little to erode the collective desire for resolution. Michaela's story, a blend of sorrow and perseverance, became a part of the fabric of Hayward, a story intertwined with the community's identity. And as the years turned into decades, the search for Michaela Joy Garecht continued, a testament to the enduring power of hope and the unyielding pursuit of truth. As the calendar pages turned, marking the passage of years since Michaela Garecht's abduction, her case gradually transformed into a cold case, its file growing thicker with the passage of time, yet no closer to a resolution. The vibrant immediacy of the search had dimmed, but the determination to solve the mystery of her disappearance never faltered. In the quiet corridors of the Hayward Police Department, the case of Michaela Garecht remained a haunting presence. Her file was handed down from one generation of detectives to the next, each new set of eyes bringing renewed hope and fresh perspective. The detectives were bound by a shared, unspoken vow. Michaela's case would not be forgotten. The challenges of a cold case are unique. Leads that once seemed promising had long since been exhausted. Witnesses' memories faded, their accounts growing less reliable with the passing years. The physical evidence, once the center of forensic examination, had given up all the secrets it could. Yet, in the world of cold case investigations, hope is often kindled by the smallest spark. Advancements in technology offered new avenues for investigation. Forensic science had evolved dramatically since 1988, offering techniques that were not available at the time of Michaela's abduction. DNA analysis, enhanced fingerprint technology, and digital reconstruction became invaluable tools in the hands of the investigators. The Hayward Police Department, in collaboration with the FBI, periodically reviewed the case, applying these new technologies to existing evidence. Every fingerprint lifted from Michaela's scooter, every fiber collected from the scene, was re-examined, holding the potential to unveil a clue that had been overlooked. Meanwhile, Michaela's family lived in a limbo of grief and hope. Her mother continued to be an advocate for missing children, her pain channeled into a force for change. The family coped with the endless cycle of hope sparked by new developments, followed by the despair of dead ends. Yet they never gave up hope that one day they would find out what happened to Michaela. In the wider community, Michaela's disappearance had left a permanent scar. The case had become a part of local lore, a tragic tale passed down to new residents and younger generations. People who had been children at the time of her abduction now told their own children about Michaela, her story serving as a cautionary tale and a reminder of a loss that the community had collectively endured. Anniversaries of her disappearance were marked with solemn vigils and renewed calls for information. The local media would revisit the story, retelling the events of that fateful day and highlighting the ongoing efforts to solve the case. The community, though changed in many ways, never lost its connection to the little girl who had once been one of their own. Through it all, the enduring mystery of Michaela Garecht continued to puzzle law enforcement and haunt the community. The case, a symbol of both unresolved tragedy and unyielding hope, remained an open wound in the heart of Hayward, a story waiting for its final chapter to be written. Decades had passed since the morning Michaela Garecht vanished, leaving a void in the hearts of those who knew her and a mystery that seemed destined to remain unsolved. However, in the world of cold case investigations, persistence and time can converge with unexpected breakthroughs. And for Michaela's case, that moment finally arrived. It was a development that came not with a sudden burst, but as a gradual revelation, the result of relentless detective work and advancements in forensic science. The Hayward Police Department, in collaboration with the FBI, had never ceased their efforts, periodically revisiting Michaela's case with fresh eyes and new technologies. The breakthrough came from an unexpected angle, a re-examination of the physical evidence collected more than 3 decades earlier. Forensic analysts, using advanced fingerprint analysis technology, reevaluated prints taken from Michaela's abandoned scooter. This time, with the advantage of sophisticated digital databases and enhanced imaging techniques, a match was found. The fingerprint led to David Emery Misch, a name that sent ripples through the police department. Misch was already incarcerated, serving a sentence for an unrelated murder. The revelation that his prints were at the scene of Michaela's abduction was a seismic shift in the investigation, opening new avenues of inquiry and possibilities. The detectives moved swiftly, piecing together Misch's history and whereabouts at the time of Michaela's disappearance. They conducted interviews and revisited old leads in the light of this new suspect. The puzzle that had remained unsolved for so long began to take a new shape, each piece bringing them closer to understanding what might have happened to Michaela. For Michaela's family, the news of a potential suspect was a torrent of mixed emotions. There was a flicker of hope, a chance for closure after years of agonizing uncertainty. Yet it also brought a resurgence of pain, a reminder of the tragic day that had altered their lives forever. The community of Hayward, which had carried the story of Michaela for years, received the news with bated breath. The possibility that the mystery surrounding her disappearance might finally be resolved brought a collective sense of anxious anticipation. People who had grown up with Michaela's story, who had seen her face on flyers and billboards, now watched closely as a new chapter in the saga unfolded. As the investigation into Misch's involvement deepened, the media reignited their coverage of the case. The story of Michaela Garecht, which had haunted the Bay Area for decades, was once again in the spotlight, drawing attention from across the nation. The revelation also brought renewed energy to the investigation. Law enforcement officers, some of whom had been on the force when Michaela disappeared, felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was what they had been working towards for all those years, a chance to bring answers to a family and a community that had waited in limbo for so long. While the discovery of Misch's involvement provided a significant lead, the path to solving the mystery of Michaela's disappearance was still fraught with challenges. But for the first time in over 30 years, there was a tangible sense of progress, a flickering light in the long dark tunnel of the unknown. The case of Michaela Garecht, once a cold case, had been reignited, bringing with it the promise of long-awaited answers and the potential for justice. The revelation that David Emery Misch's fingerprints were found on Michaela Garecht's scooter sent shockwaves through the Hayward community and rekindled a flame of hope in the hearts of all who had yearned for closure in the decades-long case. The news marked a pivotal turn in the investigation, shifting it from a cold case to a live pursuit of justice. In the aftermath of this breakthrough, the Hayward Police Department, in tandem with the FBI, intensified their focus on Misch. The man, already imprisoned for another heinous crime, became the subject of intense scrutiny. Detectives revisited every facet of his past, looking for connections that could further tie him to Michaela's abduction. The legal proceedings against Misch were meticulous and fraught with the weight of years of expectation. For Michaela's family, the prospect of legal action brought a complex tapestry of emotions. The possibility of justice after such a long wait was a balm to their enduring pain, yet it also resurrected old wounds and memories. Each court appearance, each mention of Michaela's name in the context of the trial, was a reminder of the vibrant, joyful child they had lost. In the courtroom, evidence was presented with painstaking care. The prosecution laid out the timeline of events, the forensic evidence linking Misch to the crime, and the testimonies of those involved. The defense, in turn, contested the evidence, pointing to the passage of time and the challenges it posed to a fair trial. Throughout the trial, the community of Hayward watched with bated breath. The case had become a part of the town's identity, a symbol of loss and resilience. Local news stations provided regular updates, and residents followed the proceedings with a mix of hope and apprehension. For many, the trial was not just about justice for Michaela, but a communal reckoning with a past that had forever altered the fabric of their town. In the court of public opinion, the case stirred a national conversation about missing children, the longevity of cold cases, and the evolution of forensic science. Michaela's story, once a local tragedy, had become a national emblem of the fight against child abduction and the quest for justice, no matter how delayed. As the trial progressed, the evidence against Misch mounted. The courtroom became a crucible of legal and emotional drama, with the prosecution and defense clashing over each detail. For Michaela's family, each day in court was an ordeal, a step on a tortuous path toward a resolution they had sought for so long. Finally, after exhaustive deliberations, the moment of truth arrived. The verdict was delivered, bringing with it a flood of emotion. For Michaela's family, it was a moment of profound significance, the culmination of decades of waiting, of hoping, of enduring. While nothing could bring Michaela back, the conviction of Misch offered a sense of justice, a semblance of peace in the face of an irreplaceable loss. The resolution of the trial marked the end of one chapter in the story of Michaela Garecht, but her legacy endured. The little girl with the bright smile and the boundless energy remained a beloved figure in the hearts of those who had known her and those who had come to know her story. Her spirit continued to inspire efforts to protect children and support families affected by abduction, ensuring that her memory would live on as a beacon of hope, resilience, and enduring love. In the quiet aftermath of the trial that brought a semblance of closure to the harrowing saga of Michaela Garecht's disappearance, the town of Hayward, and all those touched by her story, took a moment to reflect and honor her legacy. The journey had been long and fraught with pain, but it had also revealed the strength of a community united in tragedy and the enduring power of hope. Michaela's family, forever altered by her loss, found solace in the resolution of the case. While justice had been served, their journey through grief and healing continued. They chose to channel their experience into advocacy, working to support other families experiencing the anguish of missing children and to promote child safety awareness. Michaela's mother, in particular, became a voice for the voiceless, ensuring that her daughter's legacy would be one of positive change. In Hayward, the impact of Michaela's story was indelible. The town had grown and changed over the years, but the memory of the little girl who had once played in its streets remained a poignant part of its history. Memorials in her honor were held, not as a reminder of the tragedy, but as a celebration of her life, however brief it had been. Her vibrant spirit and innocent joy were commemorated in murals and gardens, creating spaces of reflection and peace. Schools in the area, some of which had students not yet born when Michaela was taken, taught her story as a lesson in community support and safety awareness. Children learned about her through educational programs, understanding the importance of looking out for one another and the role they play in creating a safe environment. The resolution of Michaela's case also brought a renewed focus on the importance of advancements in forensic science and the dedication of law enforcement in solving cold cases. Her story became a case study in perseverance and the evolution of criminal investigation techniques, inspiring law enforcement professionals and communities alike to never give up on seemingly unsolvable cases. Nationally, Michaela's story resonated with many. It became a part of the larger narrative of missing children in America, highlighting both the tragedies and the triumphs. Her case underscored the importance of national databases, collaborative law enforcement efforts across states, and the role of the media and public in keeping cases alive. As the years continued to pass, the legacy of Michaela Garecht lived on in various forms. Annual events in her memory raised funds for organizations dedicated to finding missing children and supporting their families. Her story, a tapestry woven through with threads of sorrow, hope, and resilience, continued to inspire and educate. In the hearts of those who knew her and those who came to know of her, Michaela remained a symbol of innocence lost but never forgotten. Her spirit, embodied in the efforts to protect and honor the lives of children everywhere, stood as a testament to the notion that even in the face of the greatest darkness, light can prevail. Thus, the story of Michaela Joy Garecht, a name etched into the annals of Hayward and beyond, became more than a tale of tragedy. It became a narrative of communal strength, enduring hope, and the relentless pursuit of justice. In her memory and in her honor, the journey continued, not just to remember a girl lost, but to protect and cherish the innocence she represented.